financial innovation is obviously one of the topics of conversation, and perhaps how we kind of get over this issue of the high cost. Also, of course, we do need to look forward to a future where these drugs may actually cost less to both develop and manufacture. Platform technologies such as this may be something that could be quite cheap in the future.
Think of one-time treatments capturing all of those downstream clinical benefits and cost offsets. And that's why when you roll all those back and say, what's one price, a one-time price for this? Value assessment based on cost effectiveness will often come up with a very high price. And that can be in real tension with the health system of today, where they are not dealing with worrying about paying things 30 years from now. They really are dealing with this year's budget.
The way I've been thinking about some of these gene therapies is similar to the argumentation for vaccination, because you're actually talking about intercepting disease before it begins. You're talking about moving more towards the area of prevention and wellness. Because if you think about it, if you can identify a patient at birth that has a genetic abnormality, right, then you know that there's an actual gene therapy out there to treat them. You treat them before they become symptomatic. So before they're even a patient. That is really the ideal way for our healthcare systems to go in order to become sustainable. Because at the moment, we know they're all set up for let's treat symptomatic patients once they're in hospital and costly to the system. That's kind of what's happening now, particularly in Europe. So we really need to change that whole paradigm.
It would be very useful to be able to have budgets that account for both healthcare and wider societal benefits, employment and so on. Currently they're siloed, and as a result, the benefits cannot be shared, and the assessments account only for, healthcare assessments account only for impact on the healthcare budget. And that does not allow us to capitalize on the wider societal benefits. So if there was an opportunity to shift from healthcare budgets alone to budgets that also account for these wider benefits, then would have a better basis to revamp the HTA approach.
Well, I think we need to really think about reducing the cost of goods as a first step. And you can have the aspirational goals of the future that Mike was talking about, the single injection. But I think we can also do something today with the existing, say, autologous CAR T-cell therapies as an example. We can significantly reduce their cost of goods.
Have we priced some of these advanced treatments completely wrongly? Yes, we have. Now, having said that, we are an industry. What we develop is not peanuts, right? These are life-saving, hopefully, treatments. And so I think all of us have an incentive to think about this very carefully, including the investors.
If we value treatments by their ability to return young working adults to full productivity, what are we saying about treatments for patients near the end of life, in their 70s or 80s? Yes, they have some value to their extra time, but less if we look at productivity as an important outcome. What if we look at tax payments to the government? Do we favor certain types of individuals in our society versus others, men or women? All of these questions are part of the broader, if you will, value that people sometimes argue for, but there are real ethical questions sometimes that just will temper your desire perhaps to go out and hardwire those into your thinking about what a fair price is.
I think in Europe that you are seeing things, right? So we have EMA Prime was mentioned earlier. In the UK specifically, we have the new ILAP process, right?
Right.
So these are really important signals, I think, from governments, and it's really important for Europe to have the regulatory bodies and the HTA bodies sitting together to discuss evidentiary requirements, right? Particularly for rare disease, because if you are even a manufacturer as big as my company, but I can't even imagine if you're a small one that has not maybe gone through the HTA processes in Europe before, and you're sitting there going, how am I going to develop the evidence base that all of these disparate bodies require? Having that early upfront conversation and being incredibly clear about what they expect and getting some form of agreement or consensus is very helpful. And then it's obviously up to the manufacturer to choose whether they listen to that advice. But I think you're seeing really innovative trial designs for ATMPs.
There's a lot of work that needs to go before those engagements to get the maximum value out of it, and it's something that needs to be communicated. These services by joint regulator and HTA bodies are not necessarily providing the companies with the resources needed to prepare in the best possible way and engage.